Looking at the second topic, which we've kind of started talking about anyway, in terms of capacity within the construction sector, skill shortages, material shortages, all that kind of thing, we've started talking about the issue of skill shortages, which obviously we've had for some time, long before Brexit became an issue. So I'll pose a question: what are people doing to actually combat the shortage we have in the industry, and if they're not doing anything, what should they be doing?
Well, I suppose people who've got a job are in a good place because they're going to get wage increases to retain the good people we have. People are going to earn more money, and probably in a stronger position from that point of view going forward. Yeah, that's a good question. What are we doing to attract new people to this industry? I don't know. That's not enough.
We've got a good example. We're in partnership with Lend-Lease Land Securities and Canaf Drywall. We've sponsored a skill centre in 2 prisons in the southeast, a project called Bounce Back, where the people who are serving at Her Majesty's pleasure get an opportunity over a 12-week course to learn dry lining skills, so that they've actually got a trade when they come out. And the I forget the exact terminology now, but the reoffending rate of people who leave with a skill is considerably less than somebody who leaves without a skill. Yeah. And there's a partnership of contractor, client, distributor and manufacturer working together at some considerable cost to do something different. And I think, haven't we all got a responsibility to try and do that in our sectors where we can and if we can?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a device, if you like, in terms of attracting people into the industry, which is the merchant recruitment website, which we've set up. And if you're not part of that website, we would urge you to be part of that website, i.e. to link any jobs and vacancies that you have within your own businesses to that website. Secondly, we have an ambassador scheme, and one thing I feel very strongly about is that we're not going to attract people into this industry unless we do it at a grassroots level. It's not going to be all BMF driven. It's going to be people like yourselves going into colleges, universities, schools, talking about what a great industry this is to work with, using examples like Peter, and there's a number of them actually in the merchant sector who've carved great careers out of joining this industry at 17, 18. So for me, it's we need to make this industry a bit more sexy, because that is the problem. We need more women in the industry, which again is a big drive for us to try and double the amount of women in the merchant sector and the supply sector over the next 4 or 5 years. But it has to be done at grassroots level. It has to be done not necessarily by you as individuals, but by members of your team, and getting out there and doing a presentation at the local college or the local school about the industry and obviously your own specific business, but more about selling this industry. Somebody once said to me that the construction industry is one above catering in terms of its awareness levels and its appeal, and I think that's probably quite a good analogy. Because nobody actually wants to go and work in the catering industry, and we're just a step above that. So we've got to do a lot to change the way that this industry is perceived at a very young level.
We're doing similar things. We've got a graduate programme now to attract for managers. We've got a lead programme, so this is where it's leadership, education and development. So this is where we take people passing their A-levels, rather than go to university, we bring them into the business and train them up to be supervisory level, manager level. While they're working, they work towards a degree from Derby University. We've also doing recruitment fairs now at schools, colleges, to get people into the industry, because we've noticed, especially in the quarry side of the business, that it's a very specialised area. The workforce is ageing. Everybody's workforce is ageing, because in the recession, everybody trimmed back. So there's 1 or 2 people that work in a quarry, and they're all getting towards 50 plus. When you do an average age in your business, it's quite frightening to say, our average age of the workforce every year is going up. We're not bringing people in. John's right. We're not bringing young people to the industry. How do you attract them? And it is a very, very difficult thing. And the good people in the industry get poached as well. So if you've got somebody running a quarry, somebody else will take them because there isn't anybody, they haven't got anyone in their business either. So it is a real problem, and it is, how do we attract young people into the construction industry when they don't want to, modern technology now, they don't want to do that type of position. You know, it is a real, we've got to get into schools and awareness in the local communities as much as anything else.
It's a bit of a fundamental as well, really, because, you know, I've been watched this for quite a while now. If you look at some of the jobs, really, whether in the manufacturing side or the distribution side, there's some jobs that won't travel, you know, so I guess a branch manager in a builder's merchant will never be a plant manager because the skill set is very different. But somebody in marketing or somebody in finance, somebody in HR, there's loads of careers outside of what I would call the core, where you could go out into retail, you could go out into many sectors. But I guess we don't promote them as possibilities to end up in Apple as a market manager. If you start as a market manager, say, in British Gypsum or Canal or whatever, you know, because you see it as the construction sector. So somehow or other we've got to make these, what I would call these generic jobs, a bit more fashionable.
I agree with that, Peter. I think there's another, if you look at merchants and distributors, not manufacturing, I think there's a reluctance to take in people from other sectors. They just recycle the same people who might in some cases be good people, in other cases not so good. I think the industry's got a pretty lousy reputation for recycling mediocrity instead of giving people a chance from outside. And that's borne over quite a few years of look at me.
I think there's more of a worrying problem which is at the heart of it, which is the skills shortage of trades, which will affect us. I think we are, as an industry, as we sit around here, doing quite a lot on apprentice, but the trade side is just not moving, and we still make products that require skilled trades. Now, I know we've all tried to make the products easier to install and things like that, but the country seems to like, a tradesman putting something in, and there doesn't seem to be enough on the trade side.
Absolutely, 100% agree, Steve. I mean, that's the problem. I don't see a major issue in distribution, merchants or manufacturers recruitment-wise. I appreciate the ageing situation. I agree with that.
Speak for yourself.
It's not. But it is the skills. It's your brickie, it's your plasterer, it's your ground worker, it's your roofer, it's your lead worker. It is those skilled trades, because if we haven't got those people doing that, then all the products we're manufacturing, there ain't nobody to build things.
Will they not come anyway if we have the demand?
No, don't think.
No, we've got to do something to. Because John's right in what he says. We've got to attract people into this industry.
The problem that we have is the kid goes to the careers advisor and says, "I think I want to become a bricklayer," and the careers advisor says, "Christ, you don't want to be a bricklayer. You don't want to be doing that. There's no money in it. You want to train to do this, that, or the other, or you go on and do another qualification," because of the focus the government, successive years, has placed on continuing education into later life. They've completely, in my view, devalued vocational training and vocational qualifications. And that's the problem. It goes back right to that conversation with the careers advisor, where construction is not seen as a career that you would want anybody to go into. And that is a problem. As I say, I agree with Andy and Steve. I think around this table, as merchants, distributors and manufacturers, we do pretty good. We're into schools, we're into graduate fairs. We, as Canal, never really have an issue, particularly in the plants, recruiting engineers and the like. But the challenge for us is the people that actually use our products. And that is where the issue is going to be, and that's where the issue you've seen with bricklayers and increasing rates and everything else. But it goes back to that conversation with the careers advisor at school, where construction is not seen as a viable career.
There's almost a stigma involved in doing what is used to be classified as blue collar. There's an expectation on any.
You work for a German company.
There's an expectation of everybody needs to come out of school and go to university. Everybody, with respect, goes on a manager's program or a supervisor's program. Well, we actually need those grassroots people. We need people that are going to make things, build things, carry things, deliver things. Because actually, without any of that, this whole economy will come to a standstill.
So bearing in mind that, as you said, a lot of the companies here, and I'm sure many others in the industry, are going to graduate fairs and doing their own having their own attempts to change this, but it's perhaps not working on a wider scale. What needs to change? I mean, what do we need to do in order, as an industry perhaps, to actually make schools and that kind of grassroots level take notice of the industry?
More of the above, I guess.
Yeah, but I think you also, I mean, this is something which the Construction Leadership Council have got on their agenda, because they know it has to be dealt with at that top level by construction, whether it's tier one contractors, subcontractors, manufacturers, distributors, builders, merchants. It has to be dealt with at that level. And you have to get government's buy-in to it, because you're talking about changing the messaging which goes into schools on a daily basis. We, due respect to anybody around the table, we don't need any more media studies graduates. We need bricklayers and plumbers. I hope you're not media studies.
I'm not. You're all right.
I think you have to ask yourself a question. If a young person came to you for a career advice, what should I do later in life? How many of us would say you should be a bricklayer, you should be a plasterer?
I would.
Well, that's great. I'm not sure.
Exactly what I'm telling my son. He's looking at being a mechanic or a brickie or a plumber.
Yeah, I'm telling mine.
That's where the money is.
I'm telling mine to be a plumber, because I think you're right. It comes from everybody to say that mentality of, you don't want to go and be a graphic designer or an architect. We need people that are actually going to build things in this country.
Unfortunately,
We're not the norm, are we?
we're not
the norm.
representative, are we?
No.
You know, we're immersed in the
I
industry.
think if
It
you
helps
ask your
because we
friends,
see it from
if
the
you ask your
inside.
friends and relatives what career advice they give to their children and grandchildren, I'd be very surprised if many of them say,
I would agree
you
with that.
want to go into a trade, and that is, it's a mindset that people have now.
But I think the control then, if you look at the electrical trade, well, it's very difficult now to get an electrician. Because you have to have a certification, your house has to be done, it's got to be done by a tradesman.
Yeah.
That needs to follow in bricklayers, it needs to follow in joiners. If you did it right across all the trades, suddenly then you'd professionalise it no end, first and foremost. You get people wanting to join because you can earn money in it. My son's an electrician. He's in big demand all the time because you don't play around with electrics, but people have a go at painting or they have a go at joinery or whatever, But if everything became certified, I don't want to put legislation and more bureaucracy in, but somehow or other the tradesman has got to be lifted up a bit in terms of what you would do. If you go to Scandinavia, you'll see this all the time. The tradesman is king.
Yeah.
But in the UK, he's not king.
In Germany, roofing is a professional qualification.
Exactly,
You have to be
exactly.
professionally qualified and join the Guild of Roofers if you want to go on a roof, put tiles on, or construct a roof.
Or you can't do the job.
Can't do the
You
job.
can't get the money to do the job, or you can't employ.
But that's the case for a lot of different trades across Europe,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It
And
is,
yet
but it's-
not here.
But in the UK, if we're struggling with this, if we professionalise it,
Absolutely
people
right,
want to
Peter.
join,
Yeah.
and then it'll become, a good earner. It'll be safe, it'll be secure. You won't get all these, fly-by-nights around, cash jobs, etc. Really professionalise the industry.
I don't think it's that nothing's been done, because you've got people like the Chartered Institute of Plumbing and Heating Engineers who are trying to address this issue. You've got the Federation of Master Builders who are trying to address this issue. So I think there are other trade associations that are certainly aware of these problems and are doing something about it. I think John's point is it's really got to come from the top in terms of a government commitment to support the whole industry. So we're all doing a little bit in our own respective trade bodies. We're trying to do that obviously with builders merchants as well, and trying to raise the professional standards of merchants
But the
through our
electricians
education.
are the only professional body in the UK currently where you need a certificate. You try to sell your house without an electrical certificate.
Yeah.
Not at home.
You've no chance.